So you really did some planning here.
I did. This is the map, so to speak, of the panels, and it's based on a latch hooking kind of matrix, and so it's the chain link fence panels, and the way the wave motif goes is it goes 1 2 1 2 1 2, so that the second panel is a mirror image of the first panel, and then the pattern repeats itself, and we're hoping to go the full length of the fence if possible. So
cool. That's good. So there's a little bit of math involved here.
There is some math involved, and that's what's giving me a brain cramp right here this morning, because it's good to do the layout before starting to do the latch hooking, because what can happen is you can start doing the actual process, and all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, I'm one row off, which wouldn't make a big difference, but we're trying to create some kind of organizational flow across the whole thing, so we don't want it, we're not extremely precise about it, but we don't want it to be totally off either. And so there is some math involved. So it's a combination of calculation and so this diagram is helpful, because we're operating like a big knitting machine. So we start with one row, and if we can get the count right on that row, it's just like a little punch card on a knitting machine. You just count how many dark blue ones you need on that row and how many light blue ones. And then if you just keep going back and forth like a cam on a knitting machine, it worked out okay over here. So I'm just trying to get this side to match up.
Okay.
You'll see. Okay.
Rachel. I'm Emily. It's the other way around.
Emily.
Rachel.
Yeah. And
Yeah, who are these guys?
well, Patty is a volunteer for Partners for World Health, and has been a designer for their big haute couture fashion show, Blue Wrap Runway project show, which is hosted or sponsored by Partners for World Health. And this stuff is a medical supply fabric that's used to sterilize surgical instruments and also in operation procedures. And Partners for World Health goes around and collects this stuff because it's being discarded by the pounds on a daily basis from hospitals all over the state of Maine, all throughout the country. I don't know. Patty is a medical professional. She's a nurse, and you might have something to say about that.
You know, I mean, all of this wrap is wonderful because it does help us keep our sterility standards and reduce infection and all of that. It's just, how do you take care of the waste? Because it's literally tons and tons of waste that is not being able to find a place to be reutilized. And here we are creating art with this waste that would just, it's clean waste, it would just sit in a landfill and take years to decompose. So Partners for World Health has really been a strong advocate, finding ways to take used or unused medical supplies and that are clean and worthy of use, and redistribute them in other countries, and to Haiti and Africa and Vietnam and Cambodia, and Elizabeth McClellan has really been the driving force in that effort.
And that fits really nicely with the concept of this project, which is, of course, sponsored by Meeting Place, which is an art at work program funded by the National Endowment for the Arts. And part of the guidelines for this project is that each of the 5 artists involved would find recycled materials to use for the fence. Not recyclable, but recycled, something that was otherwise going to end up in the landfill or in the dump. So that was part of our guidelines that we had to work with. So I thought immediately of Partners for World Health. And so it just dovetails really nicely with the goals of our neighborhood organization, East Bayside, and Marty Pottinger's Meeting Place program. So that's a little bit about Blue Wrap. And then these young women have come this morning to tie some strips. These are like 3-inch by 18-inch strips, and that's where we're literally going to latch hook them into the fence. And you might, I don't know if you want to say anything about what motivated you to come.
I don't know, it sounds pretty fun. Cool.
Are you,
I figured I'd bring her along.
That's excellent. I really appreciate it.
would you guys, are you artists? Do you want to be artists when you grow up? And
Talk about your art. Yeah, I like painting, like chairs and stuff.
cool.
And you do a lot with art.
Yeah, I just can't, I don't know what I do. I honestly couldn't say what I do. I just do.
Do you like the idea of art being used as political, not political,
A
social engagement?
I do. I think it's a really good thing because if you put up a sign, it's not going to catch a lot of people's attention. But then if you make something beautiful that's going to catch their eye, then they'll be more interested in why it's there. So.
And why is this here?
In this location?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just telling a little story here. This location was underwater at the turn of the last century. And so, meaning that the back cove covered this area is now landfill. And it was once covered by the edges of the back cove. So that was the end of the last century. At the end of this century, according to data that the state of Maine has been collecting, including information from Portland Tidal Gauge, which has been in place for decades, they're predicting at least a 2-foot rise in sea level by the end of this century, which would inundate this area here. The fence would be kind of smack dab in the middle of that inundated area. So that's part of the message of this project. Although I want to be clear that the project partner, Chris Wright, and I have talked about this at length, and we don't want to be alarmist. We don't want to go, everybody needs to, it's not a doom and gloom project, but we just simply want people to think about the implications of sea level rise in this area and what that means for development and what that means for the economy and the ecological concerns and things like that. So we're both connected with the East Bayside Neighborhood Organization, and we're hoping that this will stimulate some discussion about sea level rise and what that means in our neighborhood.
Hence the blue wave pattern of
Correct.
the water.
The blue wave pattern is connected to that idea, and it's also an homage to the Back Cove, which is a big part of East Bayside's history, and it's a big part of East Bayside's future. Anyhow, we developed this little technique here where there is a front side and a back side. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but you can see where the front side has more embossment on it. So I just usually fold it like with the front side down like that. And we're gonna go like this row right here. So if you can go here, you just double it like this. You go up through this little thing here, and then you have this little loop on the top. And you can kind of stick your finger through that once you get it up through there. And then I just fold these little things in on themselves, these little tails, and I just take it, loop it right back up through there, and pull it snug, and then I plump them out.
Yeah, you do want to plump it.
Yeah, so that they, so when it rains and stuff, they won't be, flying out as much. They'll just be kind of covering the little triangles below them, and that's it. You go, like, these are 1, 2, 3, let's see, dark blue all the way down to there.
On the other side of the
Yep.
light.
Yep. It's just dark blue all the way down. And then it's dark blue all the way down to the other light blues down there.